G'day everyone, welcome to New Tech. My name's Miles and it's fantastic to have you here. In today's video, we're going to be checking out the Aufero Laser 2 laser engraver, so stay tuned. So the Aufero Laser 2 is essentially the larger version of the Aufero Laser 1 engraving machine, but with some upgrades. So the first thing that you can see that there is a much larger engraving area on this machine. So this uses 390mm by 390mm, and that's fantastic for doing those larger projects. The other thing that you can see about this is that it has some rulers up the side, and that's certainly to help you position your material to make sure that you can keep within the cutting area. But I really like that about this machine. It is so sleek looking. It's very different from a lot of those V-slot material extrusions that you see in a lot of the machines these days. So aesthetically, it looks really good. Now, the second part of this is it uses dual motors on the Y-axis. Now, that's there for a couple of reasons. The first reason is obviously just to keep the X-axis in alignment. But the second reason is that being able to push this machine to about 15,000 millimeters per minute. And that's pretty much unheard of in a lot of these consumable engravers, and that's fantastic. So that really helps with especially rapid moves between each of the cutting sections. So say if you're doing a cut down here, the next cut was up here, it will be lightning speed to get from one area to the other one, and it certainly cuts down a lot of time with transitions from area to area. But then when it comes to engraving works so quickly on this machine, depending obviously what you want to engrave. But if it's a soft material that you want to engrave fast, this machine just smashes it out so quickly. So this machine is targeted towards pretty much anybody for use. So going from the novice up until the more experienced people. And for setting up this type of machine, they come with really great support. So in the box, you'll find that there comes with this manual here. Now, in this manual, there isn't a lot of information, but what they've really cleverly done is given you a QR code that will jump to their website, which gives you all the resources that you need to successfully conquer this machine. So everything from the setup to cutting files, to everything that you pretty much need as support to make sure that you're up and going as best as you can. So Aufero claims that this takes about 20 minutes from taking out of the box to assembly to plugging into your computer. So let's put this to the test and see how long it takes. Well, I did kind of cheat assembling this. I did watch the videos on the Aufero website beforehand, so it did make it much easier to put together. However, it came together really quickly, and you know, I guarantee that anyone would be able to put this together just as easily as I did. So the Aufero Laser 1 machine and the Laser 2 all come with the same laser modules that you can attach to your machine. So the first one here is the LU22. Now this one is really great for engraving and cutting really thin materials. Then it has the LU24. This is a short focus module and really great for engraving and pretty good at cutting as well. So this can easily cut 3mm ply. But this one here is really good at doing your engraving, but even better at cutting through material. So I think this one can cut up to about 10mm of plyboard, so that's really exciting to see. But this one also comes with the ability to add on some air assist as well. So just like the Aufero Laser 1 machine, this machine here also has some really great safety features. So pretty much it detects when there's any abnormalities in the functioning of this machine. So whether or not it is bumped, pushed, tilted, or even disconnected accidentally, this machine will completely shut off and wait for you to respond to resume that cutting. But it also has some really great features with coming to protection of your eyes. So they come with some really great guards on the laser modules themselves and safety glasses you can use. So it's time to put this machine to the test and see what it can do. So I'm going to start off by using the LU24 short focus module, and that's going to start with some cutting of plywood. Now, as you can see with this plywood here, this is 3mm plywood and I'm running at 2.5mm per second, and that's cutting through this like butter. So this works out really, really well. So I wanted to give a shot at using this LU2 for long focus module, but giving it a go with some materials that aren't typically seen. So the first one was EVA foam. So especially for anyone who's interested in cosplay or making some inserts for toolboxes, this laser cutter here was fantastic. So with that long laser beam, it allowed me to cut through that EVA foam really cleanly, and it had a really nice finish to it. But I also wanted to give it a go at using some material, so some cotton shirt material. And so here you can see that I was using, it's a bit like a t-shirt inception, cutting a t-shirt out of a t-shirt, but this was fantastic. I ran this really quickly at about, I think it was about 15 millimeters per second, and it cut through that material really, really neatly and really quickly. So I was really impressed with how this machine can cut out material, and it certainly gives me some really great ideas for the future in cutting out things where it might be very fussy or finicky that I would want to use the laser on it instead. So even better, I found this material on the internet, and they claimed that it was for use for making stamps, but using a laser cutter to engrave it out. So I decided to go ahead and purchase it, and I threw it on this laser cutter to give it a go. So I used the LU2 for the long focus module, and I wanted to give it a go on how it went for engraving. And this blew me away for what this was able to do. It engraved into that material really, really well, and you can see the process of this. So it did end up with a bit of a goop on it, but with a little bit of elbow grease on it, I was able to remove that goop. Then I made this little insert to hold onto it. But the stamps that came out here were really clean, really precise, and I was really excited to the possibilities of cutting more different types down the track. Now, obviously this machine does really well at engraving on timber. So I use this to engrave onto timber, but I also used it to engrave onto aluminium. So that was aluminium with a painted surface. And these machines absolutely tore through it like there was nothing. And it came out with some really beautiful results. And I was able to use this picture of a pug. So I first engraved that onto timber, then I tried it on the aluminium card, and this was really exciting to see the outcome of it, and it is really cool to see that reflection of the aluminium coming through the paint there. Then I was also able to engrave my YouTube logo and business card onto a red version of this machine. So I'm really excited about the possibilities of what I could do in the future with different types of materials. So if you've been watching my YouTube channel for a while now, you would know that I recently worked on a dedicated rotary axis CNC machine. So essentially it was a CNC machine that had a rotary axis, and it went along and cut on the top of it. Now, I received a rotary axis used for the Aufero machines, and I was really excited to get cracking. So on this machine, I initially had to lift it up so I could fit the rotary machine underneath it, but it was very difficult at first to try and find 4 exact height surfaces to place this machine on. So I went aside and I cut my own. So I created these 4 square cone-like objects that you could place the machine on and then put the rotary axis underneath, and that worked out really, really well. Now guys, if there is anything in this video that I've used for files or cutting, I've put all the links in down below, so feel free to check it out if you want to grab them yourself. But I got this machine up. I had to align the rotary axis to start off with, so that was a little bit finicky to get hold of. And then I unplugged my 2 front motors there, and I plugged in the connecting cord into the front left motor. And then I was able to run that the rotary axis directly from that motor itself. So I connected it up to Lightburn, and then I pretty much just hit go, and then from there it was super easy once that was aligned and ready to go. So I started off with this design using a really cheap bottle that I found from a local department store, and this was an aluminium bottle, and it had a coating of paint on the outside, which just means that as the laser went over it, it would burn away that paint and leaving the metallic background there exposed. So I came up with this Pac-Man style pattern to put around it, and essentially this is a continuous map. So if you look at how the bottle is situated, that it never ends and you can keep on spinning the bottle around. So for this design, I wanted to challenge myself and put that on here and give it a crack with the engraving, and that came out so well. You can see here that it is super shiny with the surface that's left over, and my idea came out really, really well. So I decided I wanted to take this idea even further and try it on a rolling pin. So I grabbed a wooden rolling pin and threw it on the rotary axis, and I wanted to create something that when it was rolled over a surface that it leave like a pattern or an imprint. So I wanted to go much slower using this machine, so I went about 20 millimeters per second and at a 0.1 millimeter per step over. And I didn't realize how long that would take, so it took a couple of hours to cut this rolling pin out of, but the end result was just mesmerizing. So I tested it out on some pastry, and that pattern just was incredible. It pushed that imprint into the pastry really well and did exactly what I thought it would. But unfortunately, it did put this machine out of action for a couple of hours while it did cut away. But it was a great test for me to really test out the endurance of this machine, and it did not skip a beat, not even once. Aufero have made these machines really, really well and put a lot of research and experimentation into making these, and they are just fantastic. But the only downside is that they are an open machine. So essentially when you're engraving or cutting into something, those vapors then dissipate into the air around you. So it's really important to use these where there is good airflow. So I wanted to challenge myself and create my own enclosure to go with this machine. And well, it was my first go at creating an enclosure, and I've also popped the files down below, but this is what I came up with. And that there is a really simple and cheap enclosure that I created. So it's just made out of core flute, made out of ply, made it out of some zip ties, and I even attached a safety glass window there for laser cutting, and just a LED panel on the inside. So essentially this cost pretty much like 20 bucks to create, but then I had a lot of electronics lying around at home that I could kind of add on. So you can see here that this enclosure comes and then locks in. It's very hard to use this from the back area, so it comes in the front. I don't know if the front area is down there, but it comes in. There's some magnets at the front that will lock into. The smoke is then extracted using those fans out the back. Now at the back here, I wanted to try to see if I could use these filters. So I've used a couple of different filters on here to see how effective that they would be in dissipating a lot of that smoke, but unfortunately they did absolutely nothing in dissipating that smoke, and so I've decided that I'm going to upgrade it to an external vent, so plugging a hose into it and that vents outside. So I think that's going to answer a lot of the questions, but this works really, really well. There's some things that I certainly want to still have a play around with and upgrade them, but it does the job exactly what I wanted to, and I'm really happy with the basic design, and certainly there are some improvements to be made. So thank you so much for watching today's video, and I really appreciate the support.